Welcome back to our March real estate update. The U.S. Federal Reserve has hiked rates for the 9th consecutive time. The policymakers' decision was unanimous, with no one voting against the decision since June of last year. The benchmark lending rate has now reached 5%, its highest since September 2007. The Fed's decision sends a clear message that restoring price stability remains a top priority. However, the Fed also hinted that it may pause further rate hikes depending on ongoing circumstances. The Fed changed its long-standing reference to ongoing increases in the Fed's funds rate to say that some additional policy firming may be appropriate. The year-over-year inflation has slowed to 6%, but is still above the Fed's goal of 2%. The Consumer Price Index rose 0.4% in February and is up 6% from 1 year ago, in line with market expectations. A drop in energy prices this month helped keep inflation in check, while shelter prices increased sharply. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank over the past weeks has paved a way for a more restrained view for monetary policy. Demand for mortgages has increased over the last month, despite heavy volatility in mortgage rates. In fact, total application volume across the U.S. has risen nearly 7% over the last 3 weeks, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association's seasonally adjusted index. While rates have subsided a bit since the news of failing banks, demand had been increasing with the higher rates prior to that change as well. According to Stuart Miller, CEO of Lennar, the nation's second largest home builder, homebuyers are considering the possibility that today's interest rate environment may be the new normal. Accordingly, the housing market continues shifting as growing household and family formation continue to drive demand against a chronic supply shortage. Over the last several months, the housing market has been cooling, which means many homes have been sitting on the market for longer periods of time. In some cases, sellers have had to drop listing prices or make concessions to get buyers to bite. Alex has more on this in the Consumer Corner. Alex?
Welcome back to the Consumer Corner, everyone. With the market in its current state, it makes a lot of prospective home buyers a bit hesitant to start the home shopping process. This is understandable. Considering rates are high, home prices haven't dropped back down to their pre-pandemic levels. To most, it's crazy to think that the pandemic is still affecting all of this till today. All things considered, though, this actually has a silver lining that might make it easier for some to become homeowners. Home sellers have been relying heavily on buyer-friendly strategies in order to sell their homes on time. Often this means seller concessions. Concessions are funds passed along to the buyer at closing. Concessions are a negotiated amount by you and your agent that can cover a multitude of costs of closing. These can cover your origination fees, setting up your escrow, your initial insurance policy, your title policy, and even discounts on your interest rates. With the average amount of closing costs to buy a home in the United States being 3 to 4% of the purchase price, that means to get into a house is a minimum of around 7%. Concessions may seem like the answer to every buyer's problems. However, they do come with some limitations. Concessions that cannot be applied to a borrower's down payment. So you'll still be responsible for your 3 to 20% down. And depending on the type of loan you'll be using, there are certain amounts of restrictions on those concessions. For VA applicants, it's 4% of the purchase price. For FHA and USDA, we're limited to 6%. And a conventional is 3% when less than 10% down and 6% concessions when more than 10% down. Now, you may wonder, when can I ask for concessions? Here at the Shoemaker Mortgage Team, we will work along with your realtor to ensure that we structure this for the most advantageous way possible for you. Situations we've seen where concessions are requested are often when asking for the asking price, offering this in lieu of repair, and more. These are the most common we see, but there are definitely other situations where you and your agent may think it's best to ask for concessions. If you have any other questions about concessions and how they might work for you in your home buying process, you can reach out to Chris or myself at any time. Thank you, everyone. Now back to Chris.
Thank you, Alex. Despite it all, some sellers are still striking real estate gold, with certain properties stirring up bidding wars despite the market at large. On well-priced properties in desirable neighborhoods, we've been seeing a return of multi-offer situations, with a few bidding wars popping up here and there. It looks like sellers may continue to get more leverage. Realtor.com identified April 16th through 22nd as the best week to list your home in 2023. During the best week to list, home prices are expected to be about $8,400 higher than the typical week, and a whopping $48,000 above early 2023 prices. Real estate listings are expected to receive 16.4% more views that week than in the typical week. Redfin published a report earlier this month showing that typical monthly housing payments hit a new all-time high average of $2,563, up 29% from $1,988 just 1 year ago. That's almost $600 higher than this time last year. That comes amidst a report earlier this week that half of Americans can't afford a $250,000 home. Interest rates aren't the only factor increasing mortgage payments. The steep increase in home values over the last 3 years has spiked property taxes for many homeowners. On top of that, insurance companies have had to increase premiums to account for higher construction costs and to make up for unexpected losses. When asked what's preventing them from purchasing a new home, 26% of homeowners cited current mortgage rates. When entering the housing market, current homeowners have to consider twice the often conflicting circumstances. They, as the seller, have to try to get the best price for their current home, but also as a buyer, they want the lowest purchase price on their next house at a reasonable point. That's all for this month's financial news update. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next month.